a 2012 Ford F-150. We're going to do our standard remote start install with our 80-bit key embedded in our transponder box. We have an induction ring that's going to loop around the ignition to deliver our RF signal. We're going to do this job without using a data module. First thing we're going to do is unplug the main ignition harness to the vehicle, and we're going to make sure that we have all the other plugs plugged in. So we have our main ignition plugged down. We're going to just remove this little piece of tape here. This will give us access to the wires. Very small gauge. We're going to go ahead and we're going to use T-taps on this vehicle. We're going to tap our constant positive, which is green with a red stripe. We're going to tap our primary ignition, which was white with an orange stripe. We're going to tap our starter wire, which is dark blue with a white stripe. Then we're going to tap our accessory wire, which is violet with a green stripe. We're using red 3M T-taps, which is a small gauge T-tap. We're then going to take our remote starter, we're going to drop it down behind the dash here and let it hang. We're going to go ahead and we're going to plug in our Crime Stopper remote starter into the appropriate connections. Constant power, green and red. Ignition 1, which is the Crime Stopper pink wire, we're going to run to the white with an orange stripe. We're going to run our Ignition 2 to the violet with a green stripe, and we're going to plug our starter into the blue with a white stripe. At this point, we can go ahead and we can plug in the ignition switch. Now, we haven't finalized our connections, so they're not going to look neat yet. Okay, now we can also select our ground point for this. We're going to use a self-tapping screw, and we're going to ground right to this bar right here. At this point, we're ready to test the remote starter. We're going to take one of the OEM keys and we're going to place it in the ignition. We're going to press the remote starter button on our remote starter. The vehicle's engine is going to start and run for 20 minutes. Okay, we're going to remove the key from the ignition. We're going to press our remote starter button again to turn off the remote starter. The next step is to run our induction ring up and drape it around the ignition switch. Now we're going to program the key in the box. To program the key in the box, you must have two OEM keys present. We're going to place key 1 in the ignition, turn it to the on position. Wait about 3 seconds, shut it off, place key 2 in the ignition, turn it to the on position. We're going to shut key 2 off, and we're going to press and activate our remote starter. You should hear the lock cycle on the vehicle. This signifies that the key is learned. The vehicle is going to crank and start. The key that we've put in this box is now programmed to the vehicle. If your vehicle does not successfully start and you do not hear the power lock cycle, then you can redo the process. We removed a portion of the wire loom at the brake pedal so we can connect our brake wire to the violet with a white stripe at the brake pedal switch. To run the antenna wire, we're going to find our spot on the windshield and clean it. Then peel the cover off of the adhesive back two-sided tape. We're going to apply the antenna to the windshield. I'm going to pull down on the headliner lightly. We're going to feed the wire into the headliner, get it over to this point. push the wire into that groove, the door trim, chase the wire down, get it under the dash, and then we will route it to the remote starter unit. To obtain our parking light wire, we've gone to the passenger side of this F-150, put a long screwdriver through, and we've connected our parking light wires, our polarity select, and our parking light activation wire, and we pulled them through to the passenger side. I've extended my polarity select wire on the crime stopper. It would be the red with a black stripe, and my white wire to go over to the BCM to connect to the parking lights on this 2012 Ford F-150. This wire with the red tap is the parking light wire. It is located in the plug in that pin position, and I've sourced my power for the parking lights, which is positive, over here at the BCM as well. You can select a different source if you'd like. I think this one would be adequate. It is the white wire with a red stripe at the BCM. The parking light wire is yellow with a blue stripe. To remote start the vehicle, simply press the remote start button for 3 seconds. 1, 2, 3. Parking lights will turn on. It will take about 6 seconds. The vehicle will crank start and run for 20 minutes. To access the vehicle, we use our OEM remote. The remote works while it's running. I'm going to give you a look at the finished job. We've mounted our transponder box right here. This is our pair of wires that go over to the parking lights and the passenger kick panel at the BCM. This is your main ignition wire routing. And we follow that harness up and we've zipped the remote. Okay, we've zipped the remote starter up here in the back.